It's part 13 of the Sparta campaign Abridged. In the previous part we finished off our little Iberian campaign, and over in the east we took down someone or other who was harassing our allies. Not too much to that. Then the Helvetii betrayed us, but we took them down by the magic of 2 hoplite units that just went beast mode and killed them all. Somehow. So that's all good. We've now got one last bit of unfinished business to attend to. I need to take down the minor faction that controls the bit of the Narbonensis province that we don't control. As you can see, I just attacked them with 2 stacks. We get a really good balance bar. I eventually swapped my 2 armies around and then auto-resolved it, thinking maybe it would primarily kill the first army. Not quite sure if that's how it works, probably not, but anyway, the losses weren't that bad. We take them downtown, and with that the province is secure, making our empire look a bit better. We'll still need to take down their other army, which is standing around out there, and I realised at once the other army might go backwards and attack the coastal settlement, Narbo in fact, but my main force, with all of its movement buffs, can still move from wherever it moved from earlier in the turn to go down and occupy it. So basically, we're now fine from here. I then took a little look at the map. Let's look at the empire I've created here. And I'm doing this because this was pretty much where I have run out of enthusiasm. We probably could take a lot more stuff at this stage. We have a big enough economy that we could do a 3 or 4 stack rush on any faction, but I'm not going to. However, I decided to make a couple more videos in this series because I wanted to see if we could force any interesting scenarios to happen by trying to lose, and we'll see what I mean by that in a moment. In the meantime, the Helvetii were at it again. They tried again to attack down from the mountains, but I had a small stack of stuff I was building up specifically to kill these guys, so it kills most of them right there. We'll move on and kill them some more in a moment. And I also get both of my armies to auto-resolve the remnants of that faction in Narbonensis, so that's all sorted out. Then I rush in and do a couple of auto-resolves actually. This is the final one to hack the Helvetii to pieces, and that's that. Afterwards I just created a new Helvetii faction because I'm not interested in going into the mountains, so maybe they won't betray us and this army can go home and rebuild itself. We're now going to skip several turns into the future. I spent a while just preparing for my endgame plan, and in that time the Ardiae declared war on me, and here they are attacking Apollonia, and there's not too much we can do here. It's the kind of battle where obviously you can just win using an exploit if you want, like any battle, especially a port defense battle. But I didn't want. One part of my endgame plan was to avoid minor settlement defences because I'm not interested in doing them. Really, I just want an excuse to force the enemy to attack some walls and maybe get some more of those battles because those are the rarest and most interesting type of battle to me. So basically what I was doing is distributing armies around various points in our new little empire, and then it will just be a challenge. I'm going to declare war on everybody around me and see how far through this network of armies they can get with Areius and the main force at Rome. So we'll see if they ever achieve a battle at Rome, which will be the end of the series if we get there. We were attacked again on the coast of Italy by this fleet that just took Apollonia. This time though they got annihilated, so that was the end of their little rampage. And then after a couple more turns it was time to get started with my plan. We open up the diplomacy menu and we're just going to cause some real trouble and see if the AI will be interested in invading our territory, in particular grabbing Carthage there as an enemy, a nice big superpower enemy to have. As I was going around I discovered that Athens, rather than being my new enemy, were willing to confederate, so we actually took their territory instead, which completes our initial home province of Hellas, although I have officially moved the capital, so Sparta isn't our capital for in-game purposes anymore. We'll need to disband everything that Athens has because we can't afford to have more stuff at the moment. And now we wait, really. We have to go through a lot of quite lengthy end turn times, which is the main downside to this challenge. Just doing nothing every turn takes a while. In fact, it was a full 20 real-life minutes before anything happened of just sitting waiting for turns to go by. I can't remember how many turns it was, maybe 3 or 4. Eventually, the Macedonians make this attack. They had been wandering around in our territory, and various enemies had come into our territory and left, this was the first time somebody actually tried to fight us. We're going to just give up this territory because it's a minor settlement. We of course could win the battle with a timer exploit, as we already know from this series, but we are no longer going to be using exploits to win, at least for the most part. Here though is a minor settlement battle that I did fight. I had a stack of not particularly good troops defending our border with the Arverni, and they send in all kinds of stuff right here, lots of phalanx units, the Gallic style phalanx units. And for this one I thought, well, I guess I'll fight it. I immediately thought, why didn't I just move this army to Massalia and try to defend there? That would be more interesting. But since we're here, here's a micro-heavy minor settlement battle. I'm going to be playing most of it in fast motion, and I didn't film the replay because I didn't think this would be significant enough, and it takes forever. I'd already wasted too much time just getting to this battle, as I previously complained about. Anyway, as for the plan, just the usual, we'll hoplite phalanx off a few choke points and let the enemy run at us. The AI was quite good with its attack. It went down various paths to get in, including one at the very back. So good job, no blobbing up at a single approach, which would have been the worst possible way of attacking. We do have some cav out and about, and they're going to be stopping the enemy's ranged units out there. So in this battle, we really don't have to worry about being hit by ranged attacks, which is nice. The enemy are mostly melee spears anyway. So we quickly get to the familiar point. When the enemy are in our choke points, we're out behind them, and we have to do something from here. The thing is, we lack killing units. We don't have much ammunition, and we don't have heavy shock cav or something, so we can't charge the enemy to kill them, meaning if they don't rout when we attack them, then there's not too much we can do. We have to grind our way through them and take some nasty trades. Well, ultimately, that is what I'm going to have to do, because there's nothing else to do. This entrance here in particular is a bit less defended than the other ones, or a bit less offended I should say. The enemy are attacking with less, to use the actual sentence. And I'm able to surround and pound several of the units, especially by using my slingers to focus down some of the weaker ones. So we've almost sorted out that situation. The situation behind the town is fine. We eventually take down the enemy with our best units, and then I immediately put them back on the line, ready for the stuff, holding the enemy in place to die. We've got a weird no ammunition archers charge thing going on there, still inflicts a rear attack penalty, so a good use of them. And here's where we're finally clearing something up. We've gotten rid of all of the weaker units in this one street, but there are a couple of units of these King Atoy spearmen who are quite difficult to get rid of, because as I learned during the battle looking at some of the stats, they're a very good unit. It's the thing that Rome did as well, where they've deployed loads of their elite units as their main unit. So King Atoy are roughly equivalent to Principes, and we can't kill them with our not particularly good army, where the best unit is our general's bodyguard and all of our militia hoplites and light hoplites suck. So it did take us a lot of effort to try and work through even one of these King Atoy units. You can see me here basically cycle charging with units that have no charge bonus, so this doesn't really do anything. But constantly attacking them will kill the odd one, and you get the formation breach bonus by attacking them from lots of directions. So the idea was we would grind them down, but it's very melee intensive, which is of course slower than normal because we are using the slow combat mod. Although the fast speed that I have the game on, I suppose, is counteracting that right now. Anyway, we keep trying. There's another very ineffective charge. Sometimes it does this, which is quite good. You charge them and it kind of breaks the phalanx open a bit. They start moving around in different directions. Probably makes it easier to get the formation breached debuff on them. In the distance, I've forgotten about my cav who were chasing some stuff off the field and are meeting enemy reinforcements as they come onto the field. Need to make sure they don't get too shot to death by those skirmishers, but overall, that was fine. We eventually do grind our way to success and secure that one street, freeing up a bunch of units, but of course that wasn't the main street the enemy are attacking down, so it's not really a big victory. What I'm trying to do is move around to go and attack the main blob. Here was my first attempt to make an attack. I thought I'll just do a crazy charge with my no ammunition archers and maybe something will rout. Unfortunately, they saw me coming and sent some stuff out to stop me. There's a real infantry unit moving out in phalanx formation, plus a couple of general's bodyguards get in there, and they'll actually be able to do pretty well against an archer unit with very low stats. The general was actually still alive until just now when he's taken down. He ran around the corner and fought our spears for a bit, I think, and that finished him off. It was kind of bad for me to make that attack with the archers because it did aggro out a couple of units that are now delaying this other group I was going to use to attack in this direction. So we're going to have to just keep working our way through them with more archer charges as we're gradually pushed back at the main position. This big enemy blob's just going to take down our citizen militia over time. Now I can try and use my light cav to do some big rear attacks on these spear units, but they are very light shock cav, their classification. Basically when they run into stuff nothing happens, they have no mass for some reason. So we're unable to take down the enemy for the most part. And here's another fingers crossed style attack where you charge into the blob and pray that something in there has low enough morale to rout and that you technically get the rear attack penalty on them. I think we might have routed something here, maybe? Not quite sure. Perhaps not. The problem is once the cav are in there, because they're sucky cav, they're going to die quite quickly, so even if I had better micro and was pulling them out again quite fast, they're not going to last very long doing this, so it is a difficult thing for us to use as an offensive weapon because it's going to kill us probably faster than it kills them. Here is my trump card though. I kept one unit of javs with full ammo for the entire battle, ready for a decisive blow such as this. I moved them to stand right behind one of these phalanxes outside the town, and with a couple of volleys we can quickly work through these elite troops real fast, so that's more like it. However, more are on the way up the street. So I have to withdraw, wait for them to be pulled out of the town, make them face a different direction using some of my trash here, and then move the javs back into position to attack this next unit. Ideally, we'd have the javs throwing into the blob, but we don't have enough javs to take down the blob, so it's not a big deal to be killing these guys in particular out here. It's still contributing pretty much just as much. Meanwhile, in the blob, the enemy are seeing some routes, as are we. The two blobs are just grinding each other down. We've certainly been inflicting damage on them as they've pushed us back, and the balance bar's gotten better throughout the fight, so it's kind of going our way in that regard. However, we're rapidly running out of units that can damage the enemy. So we're really resorting to fighting with archers, like right here. Even an archer rear attack on these heavy spears doesn't really do anything. We've got the last scraps of our general's bodyguard. I think our general died at about this point as well. We're just sort of hoping the enemy blob goes away, and while more than half of it did go away, what we saw is once it came down to the last 3 or 4 enemy units, they were able to take out everything we had left, and we ended up losing the blob fight, which means we've lost the battle effectively. However, I decided to win the battle, because even though this goes against my plan of losing battles to make things more interesting, I also thought, well, I have to try. We can't just let the enemy win, because that would be completely pointless. So I have to do things that would cause me to win and see if the enemy stop me, I suppose. The thing is, in a standard minor settlement defense, the way to win is to just walk outside. So when things are about to all fall apart, when basically our whole army's dead and we're facing a chain rout, I did walk outside, meaning we win. It's a Pyrrhic victory. We only lost 1 unit, our general, in the end. Incredibly cheeky. Even the garrison is still alive somehow, whereas the enemy got annihilated. So the result there looks very different to the actual battle. Because of the fact that we technically won, it changes the thresholds for how units get deleted. And of course our stuff will now respawn and replenish very fast, so overall I'm angry at myself for that result in many different ways. At least we do get to face an actual defeat. Nearby there's another Averni army attacking something in Iberia. Here I was checking out their army and noticing they're spamming the elite stuff as they did in those other armies. Seems the Averni are a fairly strong faction in this mod, and they've got some high level commanders as well. In this case, we're going to take that auto-resolve and let them take the settlement. Actually, they don't take it, they sack it, but I think someone else went and took it during the same turn or something. So we do lose it in the end. And I'm also going to be pulling back from the front line at Tolosa that we just held and letting the enemy take it at their leisure from now on. I'm going to give them the win they deserved just a little bit later. Carthage have crossed the Mediterranean with this fleet to attack Genoa. I almost fought them, and then I didn't because I decided I officially don't care. It's a minor settlement battle, we're trying to avoid them, so I just took the auto-resolve and lost pretty much everything. But that's fine. Carthage seemed to take note of my losses though, as we'll see. The Macedonians have besieged Athens, which is great, maybe they'll attack, but really in this area I'm trying to defend Sparta. This breaks my no minor settlements rule, But with Sparta, I wanted to defend it because I knew what the map looked like, and I had a plan for trying a different defensive tactic to the one I did last time. Well, we'll see that if the Macedonians make it to Sparta. Meanwhile, we're just waiting for someone else to take the initiative. The next battle is at Genoa. Again, when Carthage return, they bring another fleet over to reinforce the remains of the fleet from that auto-resolve. The thing is, I also put my fleet here after my army arrived at Massalia, so I thought the fleet that was at Massalia may as well go somewhere else. And we end up with a balance bar that I think is actually kind of exploity for us. Normally the balance bar being in your favour is kind of unfair, like it feels like it should be more in your favour given how things tend to go on the field of battle. But here, it was pretty far in our favour, but after looking over the fleets I was like, we would definitely lose that in a real battle. So we're going to exploit the auto-resolve and take that win. It's not the biggest of wins, as you can see. Pretty much everybody dies on both sides, so that's great. I guess it doesn't matter if we win or lose this battle. I just wanted to move on and see if something else would happen. So, moving on to something else happening, we're now at the tip of Iberia, where the Lusitanian Confederation is attacking me. And here we have a balance bar that's not very good, and I have the opposite opinion. I was looking at their army and thinking that army is terrible, it's packed with low morale units, and our garrison's really big. So actually we probably would win this one, and I was so outraged by the prospect of auto-resolving apparently, that I actually did decide to fight it. So we'll take a look at a couple of moments from this. First of all, I sent my fleet to just ram into the enemy's navy that was participating in order to take out their admiral right away. So we do that successfully. We're being bombarded by arrows and the enemy are going to start boarding us here, so our ships aren't going to do very well, we're outnumbered, but we've taken out their commander and that's just a nice way to start the battle. Meanwhile, as for the land portion, we've just blocked off some entrances to the town with our hoplites. The enemy cav are running into the fronts of the phalanx. That's perfect for us, thank you very much. We do have some trouble at sea though. One of our ships decides to abandon the fight without routing. They've also now developed new propulsion technology. This reminded me of some of the glitches we saw earlier in the campaign where units would run off to go and be in the corner of the map somewhere that seemed to be caused by troops being under the map. In this case, I don't know if that's the cause, but maybe. So our ship's gone. It's currently targeted onto an enemy ship, which itself is targeted onto one of my other ships that has sunk, and it claims to still be boarding it. The boarding action didn't cancel even after my guys sunk. So overall, we've got a variety of stacked glitches here that's actually kind of cancelling everything out, because we effectively lost a ship to the glitch, but so did they, because their boarding ship is now frozen there. So that's nice. As you can see, I'm moving some units out of the town, ready for when the enemy swarm in and we'll have something out there behind them, which has now happened right here. We've got some marine archers who I'm going to use the concentrate fire ability on, just making them shoot the ground at the bit of the blob that's nearest to us. We'll gradually work through some of those guys and grab some kills over time, especially against units like the Iberian spearmen who don't have much armor, so they will die when arrows rain down upon them. Once we're done with that, we can attack with the sword marines, and that does the business. It's not like the Averni battle earlier. The enemy are weak enough that when we rear attack them, they actually do start getting morale shocked and leaving, so we can work through them in this way. We've also got some minor battles over there as we take down the enemy's landed navy crews with a few units. That's all fine though. So we attack with our two sword units. The only thing stopping us attacking more forcefully is that the enemy's routing units are getting in the way, which means things are going well. We work our way through the blob, and soon enough the blob's basically dead. We've taken out all of the landed units except that one over there, which I'm now charging towards, but we don't get the chance to finish it off because there is a chain rout. And basically the battle was super easy. You might remember that balance bar was extremely bad for us, and this is what I was thinking would be the case. We actually annihilated them with minimal effort. So there you go, I guess I've proven a point or something, but I've also shot myself in the foot because now I still have this pointless town and the enemy will attack it again, thus forcing me to pay attention to it. The try not to win challenge is proving to be one of the more challenging challenges. I keep accidentally winning these things. Luckily in this case, another army shows up, and this time we're going to take that same balance bar but as an auto-resolve so that we lose. I think these guys actually didn't take this place, they just sacked it. but someone eventually came along and took it at some point. So we're going to be ignoring this town from now on. That's all good. I want to concentrate the focus closer and closer to Rome if I can. So we've made a bit of losing progress in this episode, but we've still got plenty of distance to cover before we've really lost this campaign. You can see there's this awkward setup here at Tarraco, where the enemy have 2 stacks. They could try and make an attack, but they don't want to. Perhaps because my nice Iberian-themed army is inside the walls. I want them to attack it so I can try this army out defending those walls. But because we're not under siege, we can move out to farm rebels, and those rebels will keep appearing because the enemy are raiding. They're raiding enough to make a rebellion happen pretty much every other turn, so that's some free wins in battle. Here at Patavium I decided to scheme to maybe invite the enemy to attack. I took my troops out of the town and thought, here I'll just stand at a river crossing. That way the enemy could take the town, and then maybe we'll get a river defense battle. Those are somewhat rare and somewhat interesting, so we'll go for that as our interesting defense strategy for northern Italy. And here's the conclusion of the earlier story about Tolosa. The Arverni come back and they take out the remains of the garrison. All of the troops that were there have been moved to Massalia, ready for a more interesting defense. And at Narbo as well, they go right on in the same turn with their army with plenty of good units. I think the balance bar's being generous to us again here. We've got a bit of strength. I think in reality our citizen militia would just die against all of those King Atoi. Anyway, it doesn't matter because they have just died. We've moved on from that. Another valiant defeat. So there are now opportunities for the enemy to attack Massalia and Tarraco, 2 interesting walled locations, and Athens is already under siege with Sparta under threat. We've got some setups for interesting battles, but will they make it to Rome? Can they actually defeat my empire? Well, I'm worried they can't. I don't know how long this series will be, but from now I'm going to try and seek out some interesting moments to talk about. And if it looks like the enemy will just never get to Rome, or it's going to take them forever to gradually work their way over, or maybe they'll be distracted by something else and walk off, or something, then it will have to just stop anticlimactically. I'm hoping we'll get some interesting action with some nice strategies to comment on in the battles that I do fight. And I've got a couple of ones that are certainly more interesting than this episode at the very least coming up. So join me next time.